1 week season.
Oh my God, was I muted the whole time? Yes, we did it, y'all. I was just saying, this is the HIlow sick week. I am sick. My head is not there. We were muted for the intro. Let's go! OWS fam, Sharp Football Analysis Nation. Welcome back to Searching for Ceiling. I am HIlow. This is presented by 1 week season and Sharp Football Analysis. You probably missed everything I just said, but that's okay. Let us get into this. This week 8 main slate is very interesting. We have Bipocalypse. That leaves us with a 10-game main slate, and 7 out of the 10 games on the main slate have a game spread of 6.5 points or higher. So it's a very interesting dynamic to the slate now, where we have higher game totals, but we have all these massive spreads. We'll talk to how we're going to dig into that. I'm not going to talk anymore after I've just spent a minute talking to myself. We'll bring him in, the man, the myth, the legend, the great Mr. Rich Hribar. How are we doing?
I'm back there like trying to wave my arms.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't matter.
There are 12 comments saying, "HIlow, you're muted, dumbass." Let's go, baby.
It took to week 8 this year, though. So you know what I knew too?
Improvement, my friends. Improvement.
Before we got on, you muted so you could cough. And
yes,
I saw you do it, and you started ripping, and I was like, "Well, I can't do anything about it."
Dude, that was the key to the slate, and you all, I'm sorry, you just missed it. I'm sorry, guys.
You gotta get the lip readers to come what you said.
Let's go.
I love it. I love it.
Dude, that was the most well orchestrated intro I've ever done. Sorry, guys, you just missed it. Yeah, talking about this week 8 main slate, dude, it's very interesting. We were talking before we jumped on here. It's like we actually have some high game totals. The median game total in week 8 is highest of the season, except we have all these large spreads. So real quick, just from a macro perspective, going into like building rosters this week, how do you kind of build with that in mind?
Yeah, it's a lot of team environments that you can talk yourself into. Not a lot of game environments are looking for like that. The way I typically like to play, like, the small field single entry stuff. I probably will actually reduce my play and some of that stuff this week and kind of calibrate at that. I'll still take my spots where I think that we could get there, but I am going to probably mute that level of my play this week. Not really chase the dragon a little bit, but we've got some really kind of unique ways to build rosters. Because we had some injuries, some cheap pieces. We've got some like really expensive pieces that are in obvious spots, like because we're at that point of the season where gamers obviously are chasing defenses now too, like opponent driven stuff. So like we're paying for that type of stuff. So it's gonna be fun. I think the lineup construction this week too, because they're gonna have some chalky cheap guys, and if those guys miss, what did they allow you to get to? Did those pieces hit? And we have been running pretty pure this season in terms of, projections and optimals, and people like to call it the chalk, refer to it as the chalk. But I just think we're honestly just like sharper players, and we're just a lot better at this than we were, and we continue to get better at it. And that can frustrate some people as well. But I'm looking forward to this slate though.
Yeah. Big thing here is like chalk is not bad. I think there's a negative connotation, a negative undertone to that phrase of chalk. We have to realize that like chalk is chalk for a reason. Like these are players that are going to project well. Their median projection is going to look good on paper. That's not always going to hit. And there's some very interesting dynamics that you can do beyond that. If you're interested in that higher level macro theory stuff, I'd invite you to head on over to oneweekseason.com. I spend a great deal of my time and effort every week digging into chalk. And I released that in a written format via the end around. Inner Circle members will get access to that. And then we spend 2 hours every Saturday morning talking on what we call the Slate podcast, which is that higher level game theoretic thinking. So you can head on over to oneweekseason.com, check that out, get signed up for Inner Circle to get access to that. Before we continue, we've got the NBA season here. We've got, yes, I know this FBI, don't listen. We are betting props over at oneweekseason.com. So you can check out NBA props. Fun thing about NBA props is you're getting props every single day. So the volume is massive, much higher than, say, the NFL, where we're getting 5, 6, 7 bets in a week out of an 18-week season. We're talking 150 bets total. For the NBA season, you're talking 5 or 7 bets a day for 182 days. This is a massive volume of bets that go down. If you look at our recent history, 152 units up over the last 3 seasons. So you can check that out over at 1 Week Season. Get signed up for our props package. And as is the case on a weekly basis, you can use code CEILING over at Sharp Football Analysis. That this week, that will get you 50% off anything that they've got going on over there. Use code CEILING and get signed up for Sharp Football Analysis at a 50% discount. Let us continue, my dude. There are two games on this slate that I think stand out above the rest. The Chicago Bears at the Baltimore Ravens, and the late slate hammer in the Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos. I want to do cliff notes of those 2 games because they're a little bit more glaring. There's going to be some chalk in those 2 spots. But how are you seeing those 2 games play out? Cliff notes version.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see just the Ravens out of the bye. I mean, obviously they don't get a clean slate in terms of the record. They are who they are, but this is going to be kind of as healthy a version as we've seen on both sides of the ball, basically the entire season, right? Like we did see pre-bye, they got Kyle Hamilton and Marlon Humphrey back. They're never going to get Matabuke back. It looks like they're going to get Roquan Smith and Chidobe Awuzie back on defense. So are they going to be a team that we highlight to pick on to the degree that we were while everyone is out? And then they're also getting back, obviously, the big piece, Lamar Jackson, but also Ronnie Stanley and show the fullbacks love. Patrick Carnes coming back, baby. We're going to see some bully ball back in for the big dog. You know, just real quick. I mean, last year with Patrick Ricard on the field, the big dog averaged 6.2 yards per carry, 2.6 yards before contact per carry as well. Now, he's not sneaking up on anyone this week, but he is also the cheapest he's ever been. I saw Kyle Borgiani was the first one to kind of tweet this week. Other people have gotten there. This is the cheapest that Derrick Henry's been on DraftKings in 6 years. So we're getting potentially a game environment. And then on the other side, I'm just real curious to see if Ben Johnson can keep doing what he's done post-bye offensively in this matchup. And maybe just the weak link is for the Ravens moving forward is the pass defense is better and the run defense still is got kind of where they're trying to band-aid some stuff with Matabuke being out. But Ben Johnson's gone extremely run heavy. They've benched Braxton Jones for Theo Benedet at left tackle. They've been running a lot more outside zone. They've been really trying to hide Caleb Williams a little bit.
Dare I say
he hasn't really played really great football, but I'm really curious to see just like, the dynamics of the pieces coming back for the Baltimore defense, how it impacts things. I think offensively, people are pretty bullish with Lamar and Ricard coming back.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic in that Lamar's going to be the chalky quarterback. We're also going to see heavy ownership expected on Zay Flowers. And we got Derrick Henry that's going to see some love. So to me, before writing up this game this week, before really digging into the meat and potatoes of this game environment, I was like, yeah, Derrick Henry carries some significant ceiling. After writing up this game, might be my favorite play on the slate. It is one of these situations we have kind of everything working in his favor. We have Lamar Jackson coming back. We have Patrick Ricard, as you mentioned, coming back. Expect this team to re-enter this era of heavy personnel. We could see 75, 80%, 21 and 12 personnel combined here. We could also see some 22 personnel that this team has not utilized this season. They have in seasons past. So yeah, like you said, Patrick Ricard coming back is a massive deal to this offense. We have Derrick Henry against a Chicago Bears defense that is allowing top 5 rates of explosive run rates. They are allowing the most yards before contact per carry. This is the they're coming off of their bye. Like this, everything is aligning to me for Derrick Henry this week. Love the play. And I think he allows you beyond that to do some more interesting things as far as roster construction goes. I expect, and this is a little sneak peek into like the theoretic reasoning that I alluded to earlier. I expect the field to get to Derrick Henry, and I expect the field to get to Derrick Henry to allow them to pay up for another high-priced player, whether that be Jamar Chase, whether that be Bijan Robinson. I think Derrick Henry is very, very interesting, played with another mid-range running back, and we'll get to more of those later, potentially some hidden hammers, dare I say. So stay tuned for that at the end of the show. But yeah, I think this game is very interesting. I also want to just quickly mention on the other side, the talk of the town around the industry is how Rome Odunze pre-buy versus post-buy splits. I offer a different perspective. What about Rome Odunze man versus zone splits? We look at what he did, and it's no surprise to me that he had his best game of the season against the man-heavy Detroit Lions. You look at his underlying metrics, or you look at the underlying metrics of the splits man versus zone for all pass catchers on the Bears, and it's Rome Odunze by a mile and nobody else really as far as underlying metrics go against man this season. Why is that important? The Ravens are utilizing top 5 rates of man coverage. So again, it's no surprise to me that Rome Odunze had his breakout game of really his career against the man-heavy Lions. And then we see them play Dallas, top 5 in zone rates. Las Vegas, top zone rates. Washington, top 10 in zone rates. New Orleans, top half of the league in zone rates. So like, to me, it makes sense that he has seen, like, over the 4 games following his breakout against the Lions, that he has seen kind of this like suppressed output. So he's a name that is very interesting to me in that mid-range at 6,300 on DraftKings. And I think he makes for a very interesting, tidy mini correlation with a guy like Derrick Henry. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, what really has happened to Rome Odunze is Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams leads the NFL in inaccurate throw rate. He has the worst completion rate compared to expected completion rate in the NFL. Over the past 4 games, 27% of Rome Odunze's targets have been inaccurate throws. That's what's happened to Rome Odunze. He still is the guy that has the touchdown equity. So if you're bringing a guy back, he would still be the bet. I mean, he has 50% of the end zone targets on the team. So like, if you're looking for like the scoring juice, he is still the pass catcher. And then we have the potential wild card. I looked as we were getting on the air and didn't get anything definitive for practice today. But up until yesterday, Cole Kmet had not practiced. So we do have Colston Loveland in play too here as a cheap paydown guy. And mind you, the context of this tight end slate is the most wide open we've had through 8 weeks. Like, we don't have any hammers like here. I mean, there are some hidden hammers maybe, but like, this is the most pay down tight end slate we've had to this point, main slate.
Right.
It's Kittle and Goddard as like the top priced guys. Tyler Warren is too, but I think that this is a spot where you have to be hesitant to pay up for premium for Tyler Warren. And then Jake Ferguson's price has gotten to the point where you really got to question if you're going to take that plunge, that squeeze at his price and his utilization. Like, granted though, he's apparently, though, after going 2 years without scoring a touchdown, you can't stop him from scoring touchdowns.
Yes, dude.
So maybe you just keep going back to that well. But this tight end slate is the most wide open one we've had too. So Loveland, if Cole Kmet, after we get off the show or whatever is rolled out, like he comes in play too as well. But like the whole thing with the Ravens, you brought up their splits. I'm actually hesitant to lean in on anything they've done defensively because of just this is as healthy as a unit we're going to see them have. So I'm really not banking on anything we've seen that the Ravens have put on paper to this point of saying like, this is where we want to attack them. But I do think Rome is just a call out for like the touchdown equity. And if you get the Chicago Bears push to throw more than they have these 2 games coming out of the bye, he would still be the piece that, like, if there's gonna be a multi-touchdown game, it would probably come from him.
Yeah, and you mentioned like Chidobe was a Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Hamilton, all due back. That's a massive boost to the secondary. But still, with the splits that we've seen, and what was glaring to me is that the Ravens just kept playing like 35 to 40% man, even with all the injuries. So I'd expect that to continue coming forward here. And Roma Dunze just against man has been a tough bear to tackle there. Over to the other game that we mentioned, this Cowboys and Broncos. You hit some wave tops. Are there any other aspects of this spot worthy of discussion here?
Yeah, I mean, this game in general I think it has a lot of volatility to it, which makes it fun. For like, this is probably one I still will actually go more the onslaught single entry route than to try to like do some large field stuff around, which maybe it gets overplayed in large field because there's still some floor here. We always price in some floor with the Broncos, and the Cowboys, as great as their offense has played, like these last 3 weeks have really not been challenged. But we do have the Packers game. I believe that they can score here. And we have seen the Broncos over the past year and a half be pushed into some good game environments. Like we obviously have the Colts game this year, the Chargers game this year, even the Eagles game, while it wasn't high scoring, like they gave up offensive passing production in that game. The Jackson Dart game, you go back to last year, the Joe Burrow game, the Jameis Winston game. So there is plenty of upside still here too. I think this game is either going to run real hot or real cold. That's where it's going to be like kind of the no middle ground game. But I do believe that there is paths to upside in this game. So where do you want to start here in this one?
I want to start with my hidden hammer, but I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna just tease it a little bit. But one of the hidden hammers, and I actually have like 3 legitimate hidden hammers on the slate. I'm gonna save them all for the end. What I do want to talk about is the Pat Surtain. Like, how do we expect him to be utilized? I would expect him to not shadow because there's an interesting dynamic to this matchup, which is CeeDee Lamb. We think of CeeDee Lamb as like this heavy slot type rate wide receiver. I mean, he's still running a hefty portion of his routes aligned wide. So when he is wide, I'd expect Pat Surtain to be on CeeDee Lamb. So like this kind of demi shadow. When he moves into the slot, I'd expect Pat Surtain to not travel in the slot, which has been kind of the norm for him, and him to be on George Pickens. So it's a very interesting dynamic to this matchup in that like, I don't really know if we can like narrow down where the ball is likeliest to flow through the air. It's likeliest to flow to CeeDee Lamb through the air when he's in the slot. And then beyond that, it's hard to say. So I think there is merit to simply betting on this offense succeeding as they have for a great portion of this season. I also think that we need to at least mention Dak Prescott, Dallas Cowboys outdoors on the road. So there is a little there. We've had stark splits over the last 3 seasons of Dak Prescott inside at home, or I should say inside and or at home versus on the road and or outdoors. And he's going to probably one of the most difficult outdoor places to play. Maybe Chicago is a little bit more difficult, but he's traveling to Denver on the road. That isn't to say that I expect suppressed production from the Cowboys, but I at least want to mention the fact that like there are more paths to offensive failure. And I say offensive failure from a point per dollar perspective, with these guys all being high priced. There is at least some paths to DFS failure, we'll say, from this game environment, in that like if nobody from the Cowboys scores twice, or if nobody from the Cowboys puts up that 100-yard bonus, we could see some suppressed DFS production here. So I at least want to mention that. Excuse me. As like a potential outcome for this game. On the other side of that, we have, I don't want to say like bipolar, but we've had some very black and white ones and zeros binary production from the Denver Broncos because of how inconsistent we have seen their quarterback play be this season. Bo Nix has gone through significant spurts where he has not looked great. And then I think the feeling from the field is just going to see like, look at the box score. What did he do last week? I was all over Bo Nix. I had 66% Bo Nix throughout my portfolio last week. Loved the spot. The field is probably going back to that at a hefty degree now, seeing the Cowboys come to town. But that doesn't change the fact that like we have seen a wide range of outcomes from this offense because of how poorly Bo Nix has played at times. look at through 3 quarters last week, they scored 3 points. So just something to think about. This game probably carries a wider range of outcomes from a real world perspective and then thusly a fantasy perspective, that I am less or I am more hesitant going all in a single entry mindset than I think the field will be this week.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to get overplayed the opposite way, like in large field, because of the Cowboys, right? Like,
Yeah.
just like last week. I mean, everyone was playing Washington bums, dude, like because the Cowboys,
Right.
like you know, and it's gonna be interesting to see the dynamic. I'm with you. I think the biggest correlation we have in terms of infrastructure for the Cowboys, now granted they do have a tight end in the mix, would be, as the apples for apples comparison, would be kind of that Bengals game last year, right? Because you have a Jamar Chase who basically is in like that 30% slot rate role, right?
Yeah.
And we have the example, like when he moved inside, he did not see Patrick Surtain, who's only this year played 20 slot snaps in coverage this year. And then that's when he would be on T. Higgins. But when Jamar Chase was lined up outside for the other, 65% of his snaps, that's when T. Higgins would be on Riley Moss. And, man, Riley Moss has had some moments of good football. That game against T. Higgins, I think it was Christmas Eve too, or maybe like that wasn't one of them. It was a tough one for Riley Moss. So that one, T. Higgins got the best of him. And basically as an archetype, George Pickens and T. Higgins, very similar guys. So that would be like the as close I think we can get to, like, as saying like this is how it could operate. And what's really kind of hurt Lamb a little bit in terms of slot rate this year is because Turpin can't play outside. So like he's getting fewer slot snaps because they don't have a guy that can kick out. Like when they go to 11 personnel, like Turpin basically has to be kind of in the slot a little bit more. And then when you have Tolbert come in, they can do that. But because they're getting Turpin on the field more this year, it's hurt CeeDee Lamb from just getting the 50-50. He used to be like around a 50-50 guy.
Yeah.
And it's taken a little bit of a hit this year.
Yeah. Look more 70-30, just similar to Jamar Chase last year, like you mentioned.
Yeah. And but I do think that like Ferguson, if like, because he's going to be so probably unpopular out of the core pieces, the quick pressure stuff, I still think can funnel some stuff to Jake Ferguson. It's just Jake Ferguson without a touchdown, which eventually is going to happen again, like is going to expose this usage that he's getting. Like, I mean, he's averaging 3.9 air yards per target this season, only 6.5 yards per catch. Like he is living on touchdowns or just getting double digit like targets. And maybe he gets the double digit targets and he continues to kind of run that, it's not the PPR scam, but it's like, he's definitely getting boosted. Like if you have Jake Ferguson in FFPC, you are living your best life right now. Like absolutely just riding high. But the underbelly of his usage does suggest that there's a precipitous fall for these games where he either one doesn't get targets or doesn't find the end zone.
Right. That's a good shout. Let's move over to a game that I think carries a lot of hidden upside here, and that's the Giants and the Eagles. Damn you, NFL. I am sick of seeing teams play twice in a 2-week span, but here we are. These teams last played in week 6 on Thursday Night Football, so I guess it's a little bit over 2 weeks, but as the calendar goes. But we have this Giants and Eagles team, and what's most interesting to me is I think the field is going to overreact to what we saw from the Eagles last week. I still think, and I was not impressed, if we remove, I'll walk the dog here. Let's get to the point. If we remove the Eagles' final possession of the first half, which was an end of half possession, they had 7 offensive possessions last week. 3 of those were 3 and outs, and those all occurred in the first half. So to me, this is not a team that has really found their identity. From an offensive play calling perspective, it took Devontae Smith saying, "Call this damn play, you buffoon," for them to literally Devontae Smith went to offensive coordinator, head coach, and said like, "Hey, call this play." And he ended up scoring a 76-yard touchdown on it. This offense to me is still searching to find their identity. A secondary aspect of that is we have to look at Cam Jurgens' health coming in. He did not practice through Thursday. I haven't seen a Friday update, but Cam Jurgens, an absence from Jurgens could be a interesting wrinkle to this spot in the sense that Saquon Barkley is once again set up very, very well here. Broken record time, but this is the 3rd, 4th consecutive week that we have talked about this. Saquon Barkley, like sub 3.3 yards per carry, a 3.4, I think, off the top of my head. Explosive run rate. Like these are low underlying metrics. This is not good. But we have a Giants team that is allowing top 5 rates of explosive run rates. They're allowing some great yards per carry. This is another spot for Saquon Barkley to potentially get going. What say you?
Well, the interesting wrinkle for the Cam Jurgens injury is their backup center Brett Toth. Like he struggles with shotgun snapping. So
Yeah,
as a byproduct, with him
get
coming
under center, damn it.
yeah, well, yeah. So last week, I mean, Jalen Hurts played under center for the highest rate of snaps in his career. Now, he said afterwards, too, the plan was for them to be under center more, but obviously got propelled even to a greater degree because of the injury to Jurgens. They actually were under center for 5 of Jurgens' snaps, too. So, like, it was always going to be a plan. But the problem was so typically when you play under center more, like a great example is like Matthew Stafford this year is like playing under center at like a career high rate. And what Sean McVay has done with the increase of under centers that counter the current like defensive meta is when you're under center, you can do a lot more motion. You can do a lot more play action because you're not in static shotgun, right? Like you just have a lot more available to you. Well, the Eagles, unfortunately, even though they did play under center more last week, they didn't do any of those things.
Yeah.
They just used playing under center to run the football more.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts only threw 4 passes from under center. Like when they still went in shotgun, it was to throw the ball. But on those 4 plays, they did use play action on all of them. He did complete all of them. He also threw for 120 yards on that play. One of them was that touchdown, but also the other ones went for first downs as well too. So it's like maybe it's a leap of faith. You have to say like Kevin Patula looked at it. It's like, hey, maybe we should do more of that. No, we don't know if they will do that. Like that, but that's what we have to take some conviction and say like, all right, are they going to do this? Are they going to get under center and utilize play action? Are they going to utilize pre-snap motion? We don't know. They've given us really no reason to believe they will. So you do have to take that step of faith for the ride. We do have AJ Brown, hasn't practiced to this point in the week, is us doing the show. We'd assume maybe he gets in practice. We also have Javon Holland did not practice today, and Paulson Adebo did not practice today. Those guys look both out. They have not practiced all week. That's another wrinkle for this game. So it's like there is past the passing upside here for the Eagles. It's just, again, like you said, like this team is still trying to find their way, and we haven't really seen like any conviction to say like, hey, this team is absolutely going to swerve into like having a 65 to 80, 70% drop back rate and do things functionality the way we want them to operate. So they're still in his identity crisis here, so be it. But I do think there are past upside for all these angles. Granted, even Saquon too. I know people are tired of us saying it, but like, damn it, when it keeps happening on paper is the reason we do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, is again, it shows up on paper, like it would be a spot for him. But maybe the offensive line is just too much of a problem. I do like the Eagles, I think, passing pieces a little bit more, just because the Giants, even though they are giving up chunk plays, as a defensive line, I still think that they are in a good spot here against potentially the interior of this offensive line with no Jurgens. So I'm still going to play Saquon. No one else has to do it besides me or you. I'm going to make at least one Saquon lineup, but I also do think Devontae Smith's in a real great spot here with the injury to AJ Brown, and then kind of the tendencies that I talk a lot, but I don't want to get back. So you talk about the rematch. That matters here, right? Like, and maybe the injuries here alter what, I know the Giants defensive coordinator too, and it's off the top of my head, but they played a ton of man coverage in the first matchup that these teams play. They didn't blitz. And like typically, if you're going to play a lot of man coverage against the Eagles, that's like been a big signal for AJ Brown. It's also been a signal for Devontae Smith this year. But I'm curious if they run back those rates because of the injuries they have.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. Shane Bowen, the name you're
thank you.
Looking for. Yes, we have a Giants team that is now up to second in the league in man coverage rates. We've been talking about this a lot, and we've been talking about this Eagles team a lot because there is this untapped hidden upside potential here. Damn it, just like have a functioning offense, please. And this kind of goes into what we're talking about here. Saquon Barkley, definition of insanity. Yes. Keep going back to the well and expecting a different outcome. But man, Saquon is very interesting also from a theoretic perspective in that he is priced below the high price guys that we want to jam in. Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor, even Devon Achane. He's priced above Achane, but And then he's priced above some of these guys, Derrick Henry, namely, that are priced in this mid-range that people are going to want to click on this week. So I don't expect a ton of ownership on Saquon. I think he's probably being over-projected, current ownership projections. So just where he fits in the state of this slate from a theoretic perspective, continues to call my name.
Yeah,
man.
I think so.
Yeah, continues to call my name.
Yeah, because we're going to see, I think, a lot of people play it. I think Henry will be that hot guy people get to at the end of the week. And then we still are going to see gamers want to get one of Jonathan Taylor or Bijan Robinson in the majority of lineups, even though they are so expensive. But they're in such glowing. There is a reason they're expensive, and then they're in such glowing spots.
Yeah, if we add Jamar Chase to that discussion, we're going to see a high percentage of rosters, maybe 60-70% of rosters have one of Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson, or Jamar Chase. So another interesting wrinkle here. Let's move over to a game that I think is the most interesting from a theoretical perspective this week, and that is the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers. Why do I say that? There's so much uncertainty as far as personnel and projections go. We could say uncertainty. We could also say fragility, but we're not expecting to see a lot of ownership from this game. So if we just dumb things down, if simplify things as much as possible, we kind of want to be buying into uncertainty, fragility, wide range of outcomes at lower ownership. And that's exactly what we have in this spot. So before I give my thoughts, I want to hear kind of how you're seeing this game environment.
I feel like we've done this. We're in our like yearly tradition of the past for the third year in a row of like the Buffalo Bills, like kind of meandering like the first month and a half of the season. People are like, oh, Buffalo Bills got to get a wide receiver. It's like, we're back to this talk. Like they kind of let down. They've had a ton of defensive injuries. They are slowly missing some guys this week. It looks like they're going to get Matt Milano back, but also Daquan Jones is going to be out in this game. But it feels like the broken record Bills game, but then they come out and probably score 35 points and like, oh yeah, the Bills are good. Like, probably one of those situations, but the Panthers defense has been game. Like their run, we talked about it last week when Breece Hall was projecting for significant ownership. We were like, man, this is just not a spot. Like we're going to chase this, right? Like they've been playing really good run defense. It might not matter here, but this is a team that they're now up to third in success rate against the run. And like they're nuking guys like Breece Hall had 11 for 38. The week before that, Javonte Williams had 13 for 29. And people were like, oh, is Javonte back into like, is he back to being a pumpkin? And then comes out and has 120 and a touchdown against the Commanders. And then the week before that, Devin Achane had 10 carries for 16 yards. Like they're smushing the run a little bit. So I'm very curious to see how they play against the team that is, run the football largely well outside of the one game against New England. So very interesting dynamic there. They're running the backfield split. And then Andy Dalton is projecting to start, which I am curious to see because I have talked about this for weeks, that just the marriage of Bryce Young and Tet McMillan stylistically aren't a fit right now.
Yeah.
You look at Tet McMillan, he's playing 88% of his snaps out wide, 26% of his snaps are go routes. Bryce Young is throwing outside the numbers at the 25th highest rate in the league. He's just not giving Tet a chance to win outside of anything besides one-on-one situations. And that's why you see Tet have like these really wide, stark splits against man versus zone right now. He's been targeting 32% of his routes against man coverage versus 20% against zone coverage because Bryce is only giving him a chance to win in one-on-one spots.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious to see if Andy Dalton coming in actually is a boost for Tet McMillan in getting targeted as well. And if so, now the Bills have been a team that have given up some production to wide receiver ones, and they did open the practice window for their first round pick, Maxwell Harrison, but it doesn't look like he's going to be up this week. But yeah, Zay Flowers 7 for 143 and 1, Stephon Diggs 10 for 146, Drake London 10 for 158. They even allowed touchdowns to Tyreek Hill and Chris Olave. Tet McMillan is the guy that stands out to be the most from an objective stance. The Panthers have a good rushing outlook here too, but they're going to be playing this whack-a-mole running back game. So maybe you can sell me that they're just going to swerve into Dowdle. I wish they would, but Tet McMillan is pretty interesting with the Andy Dalton potentially starting.
I don't want to talk about the running back situation yet. Again, I'm just teasing stuff here.
All right.
But
fair enough.
There's a wide range of outcomes for how this game plays out. And then there's a wide range of outcomes for how each team handles that within this game environment that kind of draw me to this. We've said for a long time over the past 2 or 3 seasons, it's like Josh Allen is most beneficial to us in a fantasy setting when Super Josh is called on. Outside of that, we can't really like project Josh Allen to go really anything over like a median projection of 24 to 26 fantasy points. But when Super Josh is called upon, that's where we see these blow up game environments. Beyond that, only one time over the past 2.5 seasons now, 2 times now, because he did it in week 1 with Keon Coleman, only 2 times now over the past 2.5 seasons, when Josh Allen has finished a top 2 scorer at the position, has he brought somebody along with him. And I say brought somebody along with him. I use top 3 at their respective position to classify that. If we go out and extend that to top 6, he also did it with Stephon Diggs 2 years ago when Stephon Diggs was a member of the Bills. So at a very high frequency, and now we're up to 9 total top 2 finishes over the last 2.5 seasons at a very high frequency. So 7 out of those 9 times, Josh Allen has returned like a 30+ fantasy point score without bringing anybody with him. And if we kind of think about like how he gets pushed into that Super Josh outlook, it's his opposition kind of forcing the hand here. Now we have Joshua Palmer out. We have Tyrell Shavers, who is really the only like prototypical, like how he profiles as a player to fill that role, because beyond that, they've got Curtis Samuel. They've got all these like kind of slot guys on the roster. I would expect Tyrell Shavers to see like 60-65% of the offensive snaps here, because I would expect them to utilize 12 personnel at a higher rate. So do we have anybody that we can pair up Josh Allen with? I don't think so, but I don't think that matters here, because I do view the Panthers as capable of pushing this team in this game environment. And I think that is not what we're used to talking about with this Panthers team. One, Andy Dalton, I think, is going to be a more prolific pocket passer than Bryce Young. You mentioned those. Tedero McMillan, like a 22% overall target rate, a 0.22 targets per route run with Bryce Young this season. Those are not moving the needle for us. But if we start saying like Andy Dalton, veteran, is he going to trust Ted McMillan in these higher leverage situations? I think the answer is yes. And I don't think the answer is Xavier Legette. Like, there might be some recency bias there after his 11 target game last week. But yeah, this is a very interesting spot to me. And I do think that the Panthers can actually push this game environment. And I think it is likeliest to come on the ground. Another little teaser here of potential hidden hammer. Anything else to add from either of these sides here?
Yeah, I think though, if this game is going off the way the Panthers want it to go, and like, you know, they're running the football in this Buffalo defense, the play volume here is a problem. Like, these are 2 teams that are in opponent plays. Like, if they're playing their brand of football, they limit opposition plays. And if they're both doing the mirror match of we're running the ball, hey, we're running the ball.
No, I'm going to run it.
Yeah. That's where this game just kind of like, you look up in you stack this game, and then you look up in the first half and you're like, wow, each team had the ball twice. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. These giving the statistics here to what Rich is talking about, these 2 teams rank first and second in average time of possession this season. So likely to be fewer than average total offensive plays run from scrimmage here. But the explosives, baby. That's what we're talking about here. The explosives. Another teaser. All right. Any other game that you want to talk about kind of before we wrap this up into our hidden hammers?
Into the big stuff. What do we have here that's anything intoxicating? Yeah, it's really a lot of just like team environments, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it really stinks, like, because when you look at like the Colts, like we have Colts who have a 30-point team total, right? 14-point favorites against the dregs of the league. Like, this Titans team is just one we're circling, and like, you can't confidently really play anyone outside of Jonathan Taylor, right? Like, I mean, this is a team that has they're run like your team, the Packers.
Yes.
They when they get a lead, it's just Jonathan Taylor time. Like, when the Packers get a lead, it's just Josh Jacobs time. When these teams play, and the other thing too is the Colts are handling their business. Like, the Colts are not allowing these, when they're favored and like these teams that they're supposed to beat, like, they are not letting these teams hang around. Like
Right.
they're
That is
beating them
unlike the
off.
Packers.
And that is unlike the Packers.
Yes.
When these teams played in week 3, the Colts had a 36% drop back rate in the second half.
Mhm.
Like, so it's just really hard to like make the ceiling outcomes. Like they're all like objectively good defined plays. Like, but like, you know, like I brought up Tyler Warren and like he stands out in terms of like, oh, he's the best of the pay up guys in terms of on-field production this year outside of, you know, Jake Ferguson's counting stats. But like when you look at him, like he ran 8 routes in the second half, like when these teams played the first time. Like you're not getting a value at a 6 to 7K tight end if he's not going to have that kind of volume. So it's a bummer. I think that we can't really overstack the Colts, even though they would be a team that we'd want to play. You really have to count on the Titans to push these guys back, but that's just the way it is. And then I guess Bucs Saints is the other game that like potentially is because in context of the slate, we don't have a lot of tight spreads with high totals. The highest total games usually are these games that have the one-sided point spreads. This game at least has a 47-point total, and like 4.5 being the point spread in some books like constitutes as like a high and tight spread. So is this the one spot that kind of offers like that full game appeal?
Yeah, first of all, I'll talk to the Colts real quick. The 2025 Colts are the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles. We've seen Daniel Jones rank top 5 in first half fantasy points and bottom 5 in second half fantasy points. They just don't need to utilize him, very similar to the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles. Talk to me a little bit about this Buccaneers and Saints game. How are you seeing anything hidden here?
Well, this game, we have the Saints and against basically a pass funnel defense and a team that probably isn't going to be able to run the football, right? Like you lose Eric McCoy. When they lost Eric McCoy last year, the run game completely fell apart. And that was like a far better run scheme than what they're running now.
Right.
And, you know, a better version of Alvin Kamara than we're getting. You remove Kendre Miller from this team. You remove Eric McCoy from this offense. I don't believe they're just going to be able to run the football against Vita Vea. This could be like a 50 drop back Spencer Rattler game.
Yay.
Like, and no one's excited about maybe to play Spencer Rattler, but you know, the guys like Olave and Shaheed and even Juwan Johnson could be like back in play. Is Juwan Johnson back in our hearts? I don't know. Nobody knows. But his utilization was back up. Was it an ankle injury thing? No one knows. It's just one of these things we'll try to get some reveal. But I mean, and obviously people are going to get to Olave, but Olave, like again, last week even was good chalk. Like his utilization is just so incredible under Kellen Moore. And like Kellen Moore has just done this time and time again at every stop, like shown like if he has a receiver that has like some nuance to his game and can be used in a diverse fashion, like he's going to unlock that receiver. You're seeing it with him. Like we're getting, and now it's like a happy learn how to putt situation with Olave these last 2 weeks. Cause for like the first 4 weeks, it was like, oh, he's just being used like Jacoby Myers. Like he's just getting a ton of targets, but it's like, oh, low ADOT stuff. And he's kind of, you know, giving you the 7 for 50s. And in the last 2 weeks, he's just getting all these downfield targets now. And it's like, oh my goodness, if he's going to have like this diverse utilization in the slot and off pre-snap motion and off of play action. And now we're going to add these downfield shots with him. This is a really another good spot for him too. He's getting absolutely jammed with targets against the blitz. 36% target share against the blitz. We know what Todd Bowles is going to do, almost 4 yards per outrun against the blitz. So he stands out tremendously here. And then, like I said, if you want to go back to Shaheed, there's not as much stuff that I think that's like a pro stuff, but like if we have this many dropbacks, like we know it's still going to be like these guys getting targets. So it is a fun game, I think, to kind of look at still and say, like, you know what to do on the Bucs side with their injuries. And then we have Rachaad White that's also in play this week too. But so what do you want to do on here with this game?
Yeah, I think I started the week kind of honing in on Spencer Rattler, and it kind of is a state of this slate type play in that there is a lot of fragility, particularly at the quarterback position, and there is a lot of uncertainty that comes along with that. When that is the case, these pay down type quarterbacks bring on a little bit increased emphasis. The secondary aspect of that is against the blitz. You mentioned Chris Olave, but I also want to talk about against single high because this Tampa Bay team is utilizing about 23% man coverage, which is slightly above average this season, but they are utilizing above average rates of cover 3, which again brings their single high utilization almost up to 50%. against single high this season. Chris Olave, 0.34 targets per route run, 35% target rate, 44% air yard share. And his yards per route run is a solid, yet sub-elite 2.64. So again, you mentioned Chris Olave, but beyond that, I think Spencer Rattler kind of gets an increased upside here because of the potential to be attacking downfield at an increased rate. If you add in Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, you're at a 0.57 targets per route run. You're at a 57.2% target rate. So a nice tidy, team stack of Spencer Rattler, Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave, I think has merit here. And on the bringbacks, it's very easy because you can say it's probably going to be one of two guys. It's probably going to be Emeka Egbuka, or it's going to be Tez, who I think is legitimately showing out as that late round rookie. Beyond that, I don't know. It kind of comes down to is there a driving force to push this game into the oh shit phase, which I talk about a lot. And the way that the Buccaneers have been managing their game environments kind of suppresses that potential. So you kind of need the Saints to be pushing things a little bit here. And that's why I like attacking it from the Saints side and Spencer Rattler in particular. Anything to say to that or anything else to add?
Yeah, so would you like Rachaad White in that setup, or you want to just do Egbuka if the Saints are driving or pushing it? Because I mean, you look at Rachaad White, what the schedule he's run into has been a buzzsaw. It's unfortunate that he kind of walked into Seahawks, 49ers, Lions, right? The state of their offensive line, that they were always going to have problems running the football against those defensive fronts. Now things get a little bit better for him this week. And we've seen the Saints the past month, really start to give up the bag to running backs. And we know it comes with some receiving insulation too. So yeah, he kind of stands out to me as the way that the Bucks are, said, I think the way the Bucks want to play this game is through Rachaad White. Mm-hmm. And then if it gets pushed, it's through the Saints side. But I still think regardless, we're getting 40 plus dropbacks from the Saints.
Right. And I think an also interesting aspect of this is the Buccaneers are coming off of probably the game of the season for them, from the sense that the winner of that game against the Lions last week was probably the front runner for the bye out of the NFC. So they lose that game. They're now sitting at 5-2 with another slew of teams. I think there's 7 teams or 6 teams that are 7 now with the Seahawks winning that are 5-2 in the NFC. So this is a tight conference, and with this team coming off of that, I think it adds to the potential of that oh shit factor. But we've seen time and time again, it's Baker kind of has to have those late game heroics to really unlock the ceiling. And with Mike Evans out and with Chris Godwin still out and with the state of this team, I think you nailed it. You hit the nail on the head here, where it's how does this team want to approach this game? I think the likeliest scenario is they want to be running it through Rachaad White. I have biases with Rachaad White, man. I don't think he's very good at football. So take that for what it's worth. I prefer playing to the true ceiling potential of this game, which has to come through the Saints, I think, and then bringing it back with a pass catcher from Tampa. That's kind of how I'm seeing it, as the access to true ceiling. Because if we're comparing Rachaad White to some of these other guys in the mid-range, I simply prefer clicking Derrick Henry's name. I simply prefer some of these potential hidden hammer type names. He doesn't do it for me personally. I don't know if that's bias. I don't know if that is, I don't know where that's coming from. But that's kind of how I'm seeing this spot.
Beautiful.
All right. I guess we still have some time. Any other games that you want to quickly sprinkle here?
That was kind of the other one that just at least offered kind of something that I was all right, at least maybe we have something here. Everything else is just kind of one-sided. I guess, how aggressive. Well, let's talk about Bengals in general this game, because, you have the Jets. Well, just because how we want to handle it. So we've seen Joe Flacco in his 2 starts throw the ball 45, 47 times. We've got this Jets team coming to town. We'll probably never see the Bengals as huge road favorites this degree again, maybe against the Browns, but probably not even to that degree.
Probably not.
Probably not in this degree. We've got this Jets team that it's hard to take serious at this point.
Yeah.
What Aaron Glenn's doing.
Competitive advantage.
Yeah, I mean, competitive. Yeah, buddy. But so do we have a spot maybe where the Bengals like maybe aren't just pushed to do what they've been doing, or is this just who they have to be? And do we have still a game where if the Bengals are going to score points, it still just has to be driven through Jamar Chase and T. Higgins because maybe the functionality of the run game's not there. We did see some signs of life from Chase Brown last Thursday. But yeah, is this a spot where maybe we do see the Bengals maybe not have their foot on the gas to the degree that they have had to, over the course of their game scripts?
I don't know. I'm glad you brought this game up because it is very interesting. On this slate where we don't have a lot of certainty, there's a lot of fragility. I think one of the most certain spots that we can look at is aerial volume for this Bengals team. We say that like Chase Brown had a kind of coming out, like he still didn't see a ton of touches. It was
he ran 11 touches, 11
It
carries.
was more situational based, where they're kind of just caught their opponent off guard as these carries where he's running for 12 yards a clip on that one drive. That was really it. Like, I don't know, man. Chase Brown is expected to garner some, not significant, but like 12, 15% ownership here. I think if we just boil this position, the state of how this game fits into the state of the slate, this is probably one of the more certain spots that we have. So I'm very interested in Joe Flacco singles doubles. I'm very interested in Joe Flacco paired with both of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. A lot of that kind of depends, we'll say, on the state of Sauce Gardner, but
he's out. They ruled him out.
Okay, perfect. So dude, this is a stack 'em up spot for me. I was highly interested earlier in the week in saying I'll turn this into a game environment bet with Mason Taylor. Then he pops yesterday on the injury report with a quad injury. Did you see his update?
Yeah, he's just questionable. Him, Tyrod, and Breece Hall are all questionable, but they practiced in some capacity today.
Okay.
They just rolled out Garrett Wilson and Sauce.
Okay. I'm far less interested now with that, knowing that, of turning this into a game environment bet. Part of the reason I liked Mason Taylor so much is because you could do some fun double tight end stuff with him and some other guys that are priced low, primarily Dalton Schultz, I think. You could have done some fun things with Schultz and Mason Taylor. It's a little bit more iffy for me. And again, like I mentioned, the competitive advantage thing for those that are not familiar with what happened. Aaron Glenn was like, yeah, we have our quarterback, but we're not going to name it for competitive advantage. It's like, okay, yeah, we're shaking in our boots over here. Whatever. But I think simply saying like there is a high probability that Joe Flacco drops back 40 to 45 times here, because I believe that just is who this team has to be. And if we're looking like their Bengals after that win over the Steelers, man, they're not like out of this by any means. They could very easily make a late season push to win the division. And then suddenly they're in the playoff picture with Joe Burrow coming back. So that's kind of how I think this team has to be. And if we say like Joe Flacco, 40, 45 pass attempts against a Jets team without Sauce Gardner, I think there is upside here. They do have Michael Carter coming back, right?
Yeah, they're actually said they're going to start AZ Thomas in place of Sauce Gardner. Aaron Glenn did divulge just that competitive advantage.
Yeah. Which is a plus. These are good things.
Yeah, I mean their cornerback depth has been exposed this year. Obviously, they lost DJ Reed in the offseason, but honestly, it maybe pushes them to run more optimal defense, because actually they shouldn't even be using Sauce to shadow these elite corners, because the other guy, it's just been pushing these other bad players to beat them.
The wide receiver 2 against the Jets has been a thing.
We were off Breece Hall last week. Any interest in him this week?
I don't think so.
He's got some tremendous like splits here.
He does. I think that relationship between Breece Hall and the team is just so fugazi right now that like,
that's the worry, is going into because their bye is next week.
Yeah. And, do they rest him for the trade ahead of the trade?
Is deadline? There some kind of, because we don't see like the NFL completely. It's shifted a little bit in recent years, but like he's not under contract next year. Like he's a free agent. They're not going to obviously tag him. So like it would be like egregious not to take something for
To
him.
trade him, right?
And like you can't really risk him getting hurt. I wondered that last week when the Raiders didn't play Jacoby Myers. If they were like, we're not going to play him because what if our bye weeks next week, we're still going to be entertaining offers and shopping. That was the one thing. Cause yeah, there is some stuff for Breece Hall on paper that's like, wow, like this could be awesome for Breece Hall. But then I'm like, we don't know like what's going on internally of like, hey, we can't play him. Like, what if he gets hurt? Like, we can't trade him.
Right. I'm with you there. That's kind of why I'm off of Breece Hall. Because I identified very early in the week that this Bengals team is probably has the most certainty as far as the pass volume expectation in a very uncertain slate. I was trying to think of ways to make this a game environment bet. I thought of the idea of overstacking the game environment completely and going just Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Mason Taylor, and Breece Hall as like if this game takes off, like those are the places where it's likeliest to come off that a little bit with the injury to Mason Taylor and the uncertainty with Breece Hall. I would rather just go like Joe Flacco doubles and not mess around with the other side. Let's get into hidden hammers here. I'm going to start it off. If you're new to the show, I have a few. If you're new to the show, we end the searching for ceiling with this idea of hidden hammers, which potential spots for eruption at what is expected to be minuscule ownership. My first player that I have teased ad nauseum here is Rico Dowdle. And there's been some guesses in the chat. Yes, that is correct. Rico Dowdle. It plays into this game environment where it has this wide range of outcomes. We have a matchup that is pristine on the ground for the Carolina Panthers. The Buffalo Bills are allowing a 16, almost a 17% explosive run rate this season. Woof. That we're talking about like they're allowing some explosives. They're bottom 5 in the league in yards allowed per carry. And we have all this uncertainty with Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. But if I look at this situation, we have Dave Canales, who came out this week and said, we are going to continue in this timeshare with our backfield. I don't necessarily call bullshit. I just say like, what if? The what if here is Chuba Hubbard has exactly 0 explosive runs this season. You know how many tackles he has forced, missed tackles he has forced? 0. He is the least efficient running back in the league this year. If you look at the underlying metrics, you look at Rico Dowdle, 16 forced missed tackles. You look at his explosive run rate, almost 6%. Like these are above average numbers. If I'm sitting in Dave Canales' shoes on game day, this high profile matchup against the Buffalo Bills, I see Rico Dowdle hit 2 explosives on the first 2 drives. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if I'm going to call Chuba Hubbard's name. Sure, he's got the higher contract. Sure, we have the coach speak that they're going to continue in a timeshare. What if? The what if for me, Rico Dowdle, the ceiling is immense. We've seen it. We saw it for 2 weeks in a row, putting up 300 and whatever. I don't even remember the number, 378 total yards from scrimmage in a 2-game span. Or
he went over 200 back-to-backs.
Yeah, 470.
200.
Yeah, dude. So the ceiling here is immense. The matchup is pristine. The only uncertainty is how is the backfield usage going to go in this team? That is something I am highly interested in taking on that additional variance with at low ownership in this matchup. So give me some Rico Dowdle, dude.
Nice.
I'll throw it over to you. What are you looking at?
We didn't talk about it in the game, but in the same game, I think it's back-to-back weeks that we're going Broncos wide receivers. And I'm actually going against Marvin Mims this week.
Okay.
I think it's Troy Franklin.
Yeah.
Especially at if Marvin Mims would be really popular, because you're still getting the Broncos wide receiver that's gonna be on the field the most, and you're getting a player that obviously he's got more even splits against man zone, and we don't know what the Cowboys will do. I think last week was probably a one-off due to game environment of Washington not having any wide receivers, but maybe Matt Eberflus wants to run it back and say, hey, this worked out for us. Maybe we'll try it again. Because they did, they're just under 50% man coverage last week for the first time. They're before last week, the highest rated man coverage they had run was 13.8%.
Yeah.
So we'll see if they get back to it. But you're getting the Broncos wide receiver that plays the most snaps. And Troy Franklin has like an incredible red zone role that is like kind of slipping through the cracks a little bit.
Yeah.
He actually has more red zone targets than Cortland Sutton. He's actually 5th in the NFL in red zone target share this season. And he also doesn't even include the 2-point conversion stuff he's getting. So throw away the tipped touchdown that he had last week. Who cares? But he now has 2-point conversions. Like these are dialed up plays for a player.
Yeah.
So he has this touchdown equity too. Marvin Mims has 1 red zone target all year. So I think if you're going to chase through a Bo Nix player, like an ancillary Bo Nix player, I think it's Troy Franklin's actually the guy you want and not Marvin Mims.
From that same game, potential hidden hammer here, J.K. Dobbins. This is a guy that is not going to go owned. All the emphasis is going to be through the pass game. I offer potential for J.K. Dobbins, and we haven't seen the ceiling. I mean, he's had a stretch of 5 games to open the season where he scored between 14.5 and 15.5 fantasy points. He was very, very consistent in this kind of middle production, but explosives. This is a guy that has the explosive runs. He's playing a Dallas Cowboys team that is near the bottom of the league in explosive run rate allowed. And the Cowboys are not giving up explosives through the air at a high rate because they're playing so much damn zone. So if they return to that heavy zone rate, if we get J.K. Dobbins here at minuscule ownership at a price of $5,800, he allows you to do some very fun things if paired with, say, Derrick Henry, say Rico Dowdle. And that is very uncomfortable because the floor is not great on any of those 3, but the ceiling is immense. And if we're talking about like how to build differently on a slate like this, where everyone's jamming in one of those high priced guys, these type of players, this archetype of players in these matchups offer similar ceiling to Jonathan Taylor, to maybe not Jamar Chase. He probably is 40-point ceiling. But similar to Jonathan Taylor, to Bijan Robinson, I would say. And I say that because Bijan Robinson in wins, the Falcons just continue to use Tyler Algier. So that kind of caps his ceiling a bit for us this week. But J.K. Dobbins,
we did the ceiling stuff, but we didn't talk about the one-off. I actually think that's a red flag for the B. If gamers are really thinking about, do I Bijan or Jonathan Taylor? That's the one thorn, right?
Yeah.
The Tyler Algier has actually out-touched Bijan inside the 10-yard line this year.
Yeah. Tyler Algier has scored 3 touchdowns in Falcons wins this season. Bijan has scored 2. It's just they just use him in the second half of these games that they're controlling at a higher rate. Can Bijan overcome that? Yeah, he can.
Oh, absolutely.
He put up 36 fantasy points in a clear win earlier this season.
But that wasn't cold water at Bijan. It was necessarily like, because I think a lot of gamers are going to be forced to make. You can't. It's hard to play both.
Right. It can be done.
It can be done.
I showed how it can be done, and I actually I used a Spencer Rattler double to do it earlier this week on Tuesday on DFS Labs. If you missed that, you can check it out at 1 Week Seasons YouTube. It can be done. It gets a little hairy, but it can be done. But yeah, man, I think that there is a path to J.K. Dobbins putting up 100 yards and multiple scores, which is what we want for his archetype of player. Because he is not utilized in the pass game. I mean, season high of like 2 targets, something like that. Season high of 2 targets in week 1, 2, and 3. But man, I think that the upside is there for Mr. Dobbins this week. All right. I think that's going to do it for us. I didn't get to the third one, but if you want to catch that, you can head on over to oneweekseason.com, catch our late week stuff. Again, as always, you can use code ceiling over at Sharp Football Analysis, get 50% off of anything they have going on over there. And I invite you to check out the NBA props over at 1 Week Season. Again, plus 152 units over a 3-year span is absurd. Go check those out. He is Rich. You know where to find him. I am HIlow. Until next week, y'all. We'll see you at the top of the leaderboards. Peace.
1 Week Season.